I'm Gustava Düsinga, I'm an architect from Berlin.
My name is Maxe Hacke, I'm an architect from Berlin.
When we started designing the student house, we were kind of looking for a place that is for student culture and for social interaction mainly. And so with that in mind, we started designing a space that is kind of free of hierarchy and has many ways of parallel usages and kind of enables students to practice student culture, to be social, to interact with each other.
The study pavilion is essentially a steel timber hybrid construction. All columns and beams are made of one module, which is a 10 by 10 centimeter steel section profile. And within this system, there's timber decks used as platforms for the second floor of the building. And this type of construction allowed us to create a highly modular and highly flexible construction kit, which is essentially a kit of parts that is completely prefabricated and then on-site assembled in a very fast pace. So the actual construction of the building was very quick. It only took 3 weeks to erect the main structure as well as the facade. The same process can happen in reverse. It can be disassembled and put back into its original parts in order to be transported to another location, in order to be rebuilt in the same form or maybe even in a different form for a different purpose. So I think this is the key aspect of this construction kit.
I think we need to look at different aspects of the word sustainability in architecture, and I think that for one hand there's the energy consumption of the building once it's erected, and therefore we share the idea that you should measure the amount of energy used in a building by the person who are inside the building. So in that sense I think we have a good relationship, because a building is always very crowded. And aspect that we've been focusing on in the construction process and in the design process was the idea of looking at building parts as being recyclable. So we designed a modular system that consists of very few elements that are different to each other, so that you can think of reusing them. So you can take the beams and the columns and put them together in a different way in another building. And so we are not looking at recycling materials, but recycling building parts. And to ensure that this works, we designed something that is fully demountable. So you can really put it back into the shelf after its usage. And so in that sense, we believe that our building has a very long life cycle. It can last for many, many, many years to come, because it can exist in different buildings.
I think the essence of the idea of the building was to promote student culture, and a quality that already exists on campus. And the building is a new building, but it essentially adopts this existing culture, celebrates this and puts it into the foreground. So therefore, it was something that was already there, but sort of put into a new building. And we knew that social function of the campus was already working quite well, and the idea of the building is to celebrate that and promote this idea.
I actually think that we never really try to adapt to, let's say, geometrical site conditions too much, because the building obviously looks the same to all directions, and on the back side there's this natural river landscape, and on the front side there's this campus. And the building looks the same all the way. In a way, I would say that by the reflection of the windows, there's a bit of a kind of come together of the old building next to it and our building. But we really believe that this building is not site specific, and by choice. Again, we think that the building can easily be dismantled and brought to another location, and we think that the function and the way it works rather corresponds to let's say, social site conditions and the need for social space on campus. So in other words, we believe that the building could be also put into another campus because there are the same situations. It's like students need social spaces, students need a place to be, and therefore it's a plug-in. It's a prototype and it's scalable. It could be bigger, could be smaller, and it's square. So in some sense, if you look at it from top view, you see that there are, let's say, typologies on campus that seem familiar. On the opposite side of the street, there's the Audi Max, the big auditorium, and it starts also with a kind of flat pavilion-esque building. It's square and it has the columns at the very perimeter of the building, and somehow it corresponds to that, but not really by choice. It just happened to be. And yeah, it's a campus building, meaning that it's accessible, open, and these kind of things. That's why it's, let's say, that's why it fits well. For the building itself, puts a light on structures like these, which are somehow humble and small and very functional. It's not an opera hall, it's not an airport. I think it's pretty sure it's one of the smallest buildings ever being recognized with the Mies Rohe Award. But I think this gives a lot of hope to the discipline, to other architects, that it doesn't need to be anything too special to contribute to the discourse. And the way we see it is that the Mies Rohe Award honors a contemporary addition to the architectural discourse. And therefore I think it helps a lot to take aspects from this building and think about ways of applying them to other building formats, to other typologies. The idea of building simple. And so in many ways, I think it helps, for sure, the German architectural discourse and also abroad. And for my personal practice, it is a bit fast-forwarded into a world of architecture that we've been far away from just before that. It's our first building being finished, and now we somehow have to deal with a lot of interviews and lectures and publications. And yeah, in a way, people trust us now. They listen. If we talk about social spaces, if we talk about campus buildings, if we talk about modular steel constructions, they believe that we say something valuable, I would say.
I can only confirm that, really. I think it really helps to look at the several qualities that this building has and why it has become successful and why it has won the Mies Award and why what this really recognizes. I think a huge aspect of that is the social function of this building and the educational function of this building, and the different discourse it creates with regards to campus buildings and their function, especially after COVID, where the campus has really fallen asleep and there was no function really to the campus. And after we realized the social function of the campus is really one of its main aspects. It also recognizes the importance of public buildings, really public buildings that are accessible to everyone and that can be used by everyone, and the fact that architecture is a social infrastructure. So it is something that should be highly flexible and transparent and multifunctional in use. That everybody can use. That is a luxury for everyone, and essentially an extension of your own private space that you're free to use at your own disposal. I think that's one of the biggest qualities that this project has, and that was recognized with this award. Beyond that, obviously, there are other qualities such as the discourse in sustainable construction and modular construction and design for disassembly. And I think it's really put a spotlight on new kind of campus typologies and what the campus of the future is, especially for cities or universities in large and smaller cities away from the big metropolis. So that's a big quality. And again, I mean, to reiterate what Gustav said, for my own practice, it means the same thing is looking at what were the qualities in producing this building and how can you reproduce such qualities, such processes, like especially looking at the process. There was a collaborative nature to the design process, which is hugely important, also looking forward to new projects. Again, there's a social idea in architecture that needs promoting and that needs formulating and trying to figure out what role architecture can play in the social discourse. So one question is about the building system itself, whether that can be reproduced and can create new. What would happen if you place this building in a different context? I think that's one question, and that could be worth elaborating on. The other question is, you know, taking the specific qualities of this architecture seriously and applying it to other sites. So again, design for disassembly, for example, is a topic that can be broadened and applied to many projects. The same goes for the educational and collaborative spirit in this project. That is something that is, I think, applicable to maybe not every project, but can be thought of with every brief that you're given. So I think there's a variety of strategies implemented there.
When we started designing this, we were somehow more or less just out of uni, and so we haven't had that much of design experience. We just had our, let's say, ideals that we took from studying together in London, and somehow the way we came together was, I would say, as you would collaborate on a student project somehow. We started from scratch and we were a bit naive, and I had a bit of experience in designing steel constructions and smaller pavilion scale projects in the office where I worked before. And Max came in with the idea of social spaces and these kind of things. And I mean, I can't recall every bit of it, but in a way we were just designing our favorite building and hoping that it goes through. And to be fair, we were also thinking that we have something very interesting and innovative, but maybe it's a bit too speculative for the jury. So we were counting on, let's say, second place or third. Never somehow could imagine that we win this. But good thing was that the jury was just full of architects and professors from the TU Braunschweig, and I mean, I don't know, but we were always thinking about the jury as that they somehow they kind of try to compete about who's the most let's say forward thinking in the jury, and in the end they were like, yeah, of course this is buildable, and of course it's within costs, and it's fine, it's a good building. And I don't know how it happened in the end, but I think as much as we designed it as a student project, the professors were looking at it as a good student project somehow. I don't know. There's somehow a bit of naivety in it, and I think this somehow came from us having actually no clue about how to do these things.
I think this is a really good point about naivety in architecture and designing architecture. It's a very important aspect in creative disciplines. We were just fresh out of uni, we were quite young, this was 9 years ago. So we shared a collective or a common ambition and motivation to, you know, make it happen and try it and establish yourself. At the same time, we approached it with a relatively naive mindset and, you know, came up with a very, let's say, different solution than you would expect from a competition. And you also have to understand that the setup of the competition was a chance for us. It was not a very standard competition in the sense that it was, you know, open for everyone, etc. It was within the architecture faculty. It had the promise of being built. It was open. There were no like requirements for the competitions. You didn't have to show reference projects or turnovers, etc. So it was accessible for very young architects without much experience, and that is very unique. And that's another aspect of this project that should be promoted, I think. You know, giving chance to young officers with naive approaches.